So many moms feel stuck and isolated, like they've got to keep it all together and can't say how hard it really is. On Let's Get Real, we talk about the real stuff, motherhood, mental health, and everything in between, so you don't feel like you have to carry it alone anymore. Because in order to heal, we have to get real. If you're feeling overwhelmed, grab the Overwhelmed Moms Guide. It's totally free and made to help you feel like yourself again. The link is in the show notes. Let's jump in. Grief can make even the simplest tasks feel impossible. When the worst things happen, life continues, but the person grieving may feel frozen and overwhelmed. In those early days, healing does not come from big breakthroughs or inspirational advice. It comes from small steps, sometimes as small as getting out of bed or brushing your teeth. Today's conversation honors grief as it unfolds and offers compassion for one surviving day at a time. Today, we're joined by Lisa Espinoza, author of First Brush Your Teeth, Grief and Loss in Real Time. On January 1st of 2019, Lisa lost her youngest son, Chandler, to a traumatic brain injury. She later shares her first year of grief through daily writing, which became a powerful companion for others navigating loss. Lisa, thank you so much for being here today and just creating the space to share your story, because I know that this is something that will really resonate with other listeners who have been through something similar. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much. It's always my pleasure, my privilege to be able to join in with you and the message that you give to your listeners. So thank you.
Well, as we get started, I would love it if you could take us back to wherever you would like to start, really, with you've lost your son Chandler to a TBI injury. And so I'm just curious if you would like to share a little bit more of that story, and also like kind of what those early days were like after losing him. What gave you the strength to keep showing up?
So it was December 15th, 2018, and I was sitting in my chair. I don't have to think hard. It's all right there. I was sitting in my big puffy chair in my bedroom. It was close to Christmas, so one of the things that we always do is go look at lights as a family. And so all my kids, Chase, Chance, Chandler, Charlie, my husband is Chip. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm Lisa. I knew that there was a kid home. I wasn't sure which one it was at the time, but I heard footsteps coming down the hallway. So I just kind of yelled out, "Hey, whichever kid you are you going to be able to join us for Christmas lights tonight?" And it was Chandler. It was my youngest son, Chandler. And he said, "I got to get to work, Mom. I love you." And I said, "I love you too, honey." And those were the last words that I was ever able to say to Chandler before he no longer could hear or process or know that I was saying I love you, as far as we understand it. So I went about my evening, went to TJ Maxx to get gifts for this Secret Santa thing we were doing at work. So I had my basket full. I was about to check out, and I get a phone call. "Is this the mother of Chandler Espinoza? This is the hospital, and he's been hit by a car." Okay, most normal people would go, "Oh my gosh, my son's been hit by a car. I'm going to get there." But in my world, at 2 years old, 3 years old, whatever, Chandler had jumped out of the toy box, broken his collarbone. He had done flips on his BMX bike through the years and needed stitches on his leg. And he had broken a cervical in a body surfing. He had he had picked up a baby rattlesnake. Don't even ask me.
Oh my gosh.
Why would you do that? Okay. So he picked up a baby rattler. It bit him. He ended up at the hospital, but they assured me after they called me later and said, "Oh, it was a baby rattler and it didn't let go of any poison, so he's okay." I mean, these are just kind of the calls I would get through the year, and he was always fine. So I thought, okay, I'll just go ahead and pay for my stuff, and then I'll get to the hospital. And then something just hit me, and I registered, "You need to get there." So I hopped in the car, called my husband, who was visiting his stepdad, who had dementia. He was visiting him in New Mexico. And so I just said, "Here's what's happened. I'm getting to the hospital." I'm sure it couldn't be too serious because they knew how to call me. So he must have either told them how to call me, or he had to have let them into his phone to call me. So it couldn't be too bad. Well, yeah, it was as bad as you can get. So for the next 18 days, we went from, okay, we know they told us he'll be, if he lives, he'll be paralyzed. And so we were like, okay, we're going to retrofit our room downstairs. We'll make
Mm.
it a bedroom. We'll put ramps in. We're looking into rehab, spinal injury rehab facilities. I mean, we just thought, okay, now the next thing is in a few years, we'll get a call from somebody saying, hey, you need to come get your son. He was in his wheelchair and did a backflip and he's okay, but you got to come get. I mean,
Mm.
we just knew he'll keep being
Yeah.
chanced, just in a different form. And after, a week and a half, little more goes by, and he's not responding at all like they
Mm.
hoped he would respond. And ultimately, we lost him on January 1st, 2019. And the way that I got through was early on, even when we were thinking he's going to be okay. Well, it's just life's going to look different, but he's going to be okay. A friend of mine had said, you need to write about this on Caring Bridge because people want to know how he's doing. They want to stay caught up, and instead of texting every day, just write it on Caring Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, I'll write on Caring Bridge. She said, you're a writer. You need to do this. Is how you need to do this. So I started writing on Caring Bridge just 3, 4 days after he was hit. And after a few days, I found that it was helpful for me. Yeah, I'm a writer, but I'd never written in this circumstance.
Right.
And so I found that the processing of it on a page at the end of the day helped me. And
Mm.
then I was getting feedback from other people that said, your writing is helping me.
Mm.
And so it was like this, wait a minute, I get to help myself process. I get to keep people updated on how Chandler's doing. And somehow just being honest, which is kind of all I know how to do, it's helping people. So after January 1st, 2019, I had found out that Chandler wanted to be a writer. And there's a whole story about how this connection happened. I write on Substack, and it's the stories there.
Um,
It's called The Pizza Angel in the SICU. How this all came to be, it's just a kind of a God story for sure. But I found out that Chandler wanted to be a writer. And so I just made this commitment. I'm going to write every single day for this next year, not just about this, but for Chandler and with Chandler
mm.
as a way to honor his life and his desire to be a writer. We're going to do this together. So every single day, that whole year after losing Chandler, I wrote, I processed at the end of the day. Sometimes I didn't want to do it. There were a lot of times I didn't want to do it. And I would think,
Mm-hmm.
what would it be like if I didn't have to sit down and connect myself to a page that directly connects me with the fact that Chandler is no longer here? What would
Right.
it feel like? But then I was like, no, I hear his voice saying, Mom, we've got this. Mom, we've got this.
Mm.
And so I wrote every day. And toward the end of that year, I thought, I I want this to be available all in one spot for people, that it could help people, because it's not a 3 years later I'm writing about how I did this or what it was like.
Yeah.
This is what Mother's Day 2019 is.
Mm.
This is what Chandler's birthday, the very first one after losing him, is like today.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, like, grief and hope in real time, I thought maybe, because this is what I wanted, this is what I just grabbed onto for dear life, was I wanted to hear from someone who'd been through it, what was it really like on your first Mother's Day? You able to just breathe on their first birthday? What was the first Thanksgiving like? And I would just hang on to that because they had made it through.
Mm.
And so that's what First Brush Your Teeth, Grief and Hope in Real Time is. It's a book, but it's a collection of a year of day by day by day processing, grieving, and discovering that joy coexists with
Mm.
pain. It just does.
Wow.
If we wait until everything is good, there's no negative either here or on the horizon, we will never experience what joy at its essence is. So I learned joy is all commingled with it, and hope. Hope is possible, even in the middle of days where they seem impossible to live through.
Mm-hmm.
That's where all of this came from.
God,
That's all of it was born.
it's remarkable. I think just hearing you having even the thought or somebody prompting you of their real time, your day to day experiences, because even to your point where you're like you're looking for that yourself, it would be very different. Like if you were to even try to write now, like
Oh,
a
yeah.
year later or a few years later, it's so different because in the day to day, like you said, like that first Mother's Day or the first birthday, like there's so many for the first holidays, all of those things where in the midst of it, like how we're made, like we're feeling beings, like God made us to feel first, right? And a lot of times we don't have the words for that. And so often, like it's just very overwhelming, especially when you go through such tremendous heart wrenching loss like that. So to hear like and in the midst of it when we have all these big feelings, it's easy to just think we're the only ones, or it just the weight of it can crush us, or we don't really know how to share. We don't even have the words to say like this is what I'm needing, this is what would help. We don't even have like we don't have the language, especially in those depths when you go through something like that. So to get to read somebody else's day-to-day experience is in their that first year would be like, oh my gosh, I would think I'm not the only one. This is normal to feel going through something like this. Like there's not something wrong with me. And it even, I would think, just shares, like eases the burden of the pain and the weight of the grief there. It's just like can ease it knowing that there's somebody you can read from who's kind of like holding it with you. It's even just hearing like remarkable to think of like what you learn later of what Chandler desired, and then seeing like that's actually a gift that you've had, and this like, hey, we're writing this together, and just that sense of like in the midst of what would be just so like what would seem and look like impossible, there's some aspects of redemption or hope in ways that you could never like even from the beginning be able to foresee what that would look like.
No,
Yeah.
no. It was just at first, how do I just process the day and let people know how he's doing?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And then
Yes.
it was, I have to keep doing this for me and with Chandler. And somehow for people that are like, one person literally said, you're helping me find words for what I couldn't find words for.
Wow.
And I would say every single person who's appeared here as a guest has the same experience. Is when you go through hard times, sometimes devastating seasons.
Mm-hmm.
One of the brightest points of redemption is when you can know that your pain has somehow been used and transformed and becomes a point of help and light in someone else's life. That's for me one of the brightest spots of redemption in the whole thing. Is, I mean, now don't get me wrong, I'd go back and like I didn't check that
Yes.
box to lose my son. I would give anything to have Chandler here right now. That's my choice.
Yeah.
But since that's not what I get to have,
Mm.
I think that about the best thing that can happen is that the pain of losing him can somehow be used in a way that helps other people. And selfishly, it helps me. That's
Mm-hmm.
just the honest
Yes.
truth. It helps me to know that I'm helping somebody else.
Yes, exactly. And like you said, like getting to put words to this or express it in the ways of whatever you're feeling, but putting pen to paper and hearing somebody say, you gave words that I couldn't even find like to what I've experienced. I think that's one of the most powerful things that helps us. Things like this you can't really make sense of. So there's no real making sense of it, but it helps to finally find the words to name our experiences instead of feeling like it's still such a fog and confusion, which there can still be. But like part of moving into clarity is finally having something named. Even if you're still like, it doesn't make any sense, but at least there's words for it. And I finally can like feel seen. I feel understood. I feel like all these things. So it is, yeah, it's very powerful. It's just far more powerful than we even realize.
When you just said that, like we just passed Mother's Day, and one of those things that sort of kind of doesn't make sense unless you've been there or lived it is moving up to that first Mother's Day. Your listeners can place yourself in whatever holiday and in whatever context if you've lost a husband and here's this first Valentine's Day or whatever relationship it is, you can place yourself in it and go, okay, we're coming up to this first whatever meaningful holiday. I don't know how I'm going to survive it. Now, to the outside person, of course you're going to survive it. You're going to keep breathing. You're going to keep moving. Of course you're going to survive it. But as I wrote this, logically, yeah, my heart will keep beating, probably. I will keep functioning, probably, but I don't know how. I don't know how because everything in me is terrified and confused and has no idea how this day is going to happen and I'm not going to crumble into a
Yes.
million pieces and get moved through it and past it. That doesn't make sense if you don't know what this is because you're like, oh yeah, you'll survive, you'll survive. I get that. But to be able to hear someone say those words who's approached that first holiday and go, yes, that's how I felt. Those are the kinds of things that I leaned toward. I didn't want to read anything with a pretty bow tied on it or
Yeah.
everything happens for a reason. One of my favorite books is by Kate Bowler. Everything happens for a reason and other lies I've loved. I mean, I get everything happens for whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you don't want to hear that
Mm-mm.
when you're going, none of that. No, I'm
Yeah.
hurting. I'm literally aching. I'm sighing every day trying to get my breath because my body can't absorb that I will never touch my son's face on this earth again. So, which kind of, I guess, leads me into how do you help people who are going through this? And the first thing is don't say dumb things. Like, don't say, well, you have other kids or everything happens for a reason. Or, I mean, things that are well intentioned. Don't get me wrong. I
Yeah.
know people, by and large, mean well.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those things are prompted by their own trying to mask their own fear. Like, I don't want this to happen to me or my loved one. So if I
Yes.
say something like this, it'll make me feel better. Maybe it'll make you feel better. I get that. I'm not like the grief Nazi police or whatever. But I will say that probably the best thing you can say is, God, this sucks for you.
Mm-hmm.
My heart hurts for you.
Yeah.
I don't even have words. I hate this for you. Like that's a lot
Yes.
more. It sits well. It doesn't like scrape against the
Mm-hmm.
reality that your person is going through. And even to say, can I bring you a juice? Can I bring you a coffee? Or I had one friend who said, I'm gonna text you every single day. And you don't ever have to text me back, but I'm gonna text you every day to say, I'm thinking of you, I'm praying for you until whatever point it seems like it's okay to stop. And she did.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, those are the kinds of things like just just real things, like what you talk about, real things, not superficial, this looks nice kind of thing, but real stuff.
Yes, exactly. Because that's actually one of the things I was going to ask is if there's been kind of what were some of the most unhelpful things that someone did say and why did that hurt? Because it's so common. And so you just like talked about that. So I don't know if you want to expand any more on that. Yeah.
I just have one. Honestly, I think I just have one. And I was sort of listening for that as the, days and weeks and months went on, because I was like, wow, I put myself in other people's place and thought it must be hard to know what to say to someone who's lost their son or daughter. And the only one that really just struck me and still comes to mind. I was talking with someone, and I won't say names. Maybe they'll hear this, maybe they won't. But if they do hear it, maybe they'll never say this to someone again. I was talking to someone was married to someone who had a grown, I think it was a grown child, but just one, didn't have multiple children, had one child. And that child had passed away. And this person said to me, I just prayed. I was like, okay, Lord, he just has one child. Why would you take that one? There's so many people that have multiple kids. And I wanted to say, you know what? That's how I feel. Take one of mine. I got three more.
Oh my
What's
gosh.
losing one?
Yeah.
Here's your sign. Don't even have words for
No.
that.
Oh my gosh. That is
Just
so wild. And it's almost like not even human, because it's like that's what you would say about
it's just
animals or something. But like,
dumb,
yes,
dumb and
that is, yeah.
insensitive. And
Mm-hmm.
and the person, I'm sure, had no clue that what she
Mm-hmm.
just said was, ding, 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 you won the prize. That was the dumbest thing that was ever said to me after losing my son. And you won.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, and it's just completely dismissing what you're going through. And then even just feeding into like the comparison aspect, which I think it just makes it so much worse. Like it really bothers me when I hear people say like if they're going through something really hard or they've gone through a painful experience and they're like, but then I think over here and I try to think like, oh, somebody else has it worse. I'm like, and I've asked the question, I'm like, does that actually help?
Does that
Does
make
that
you
actually help you? Does it
you
make you
better in
feel
some way?
better?
Yeah.
And they're like, no. I'm like, then why are you like either it's easy to do to ourselves or have somebody else do that to us instead of just honoring the loss that we've had and that it hurts. There's so much pain and there's absolutely no need to compare that to anybody because it's our own experience and
And
it's
what you're talking
painful.
about is that on one hand, there's a reframing with gratitude. On the one hand, there's like, you know what? I have, well, I'll just throw out, I had rotator cuff surgery last year, which was voluntary. So it's a total different ball game than people who have like chronic pain syndromes and those kinds of things. But
Hmm.
I had the shoulder surgery and it kicked my butt. Like it was the hardest thing I've ever recovered from. It was horrible. And I thought, you know what? There are people who live through chronic pain every single day and not necessarily from a voluntary surgery. And that reframe for me was from a point of gratitude. I'm
Hmm.
grateful that this is going to get better, that I'm going to regain. So there's a reframing with gratitude, but then there's what you're talking about, which is a minimization.
Yes.
That's not healthy. That's different because that's saying, because that person went through this doesn't even matter. Well,
Hmm.
it matters because pain is pain, grief is grief. They just have different shapes. They have different nuances. I lost my mom when I was 18. That shape and texture and color of grief, while sharing some similarities for sure to losing Chandler, is just different. It's just different than all of the contours of losing Chandler. It's just
Hmm.
different. I'm not going to minimize one against the other.
Yeah, exactly, exactly, which I think is so huge and important. Like, yeah, I've talked about this with a couple different people as far as like learning how to really like be able to approach somebody else in their grief and learning how to, because like you said, like there's things that are very unhelpful to hear that are actually, it makes it a lot worse even if somebody just doesn't say anything at all, they don't even acknowledge it, or they say something like throw out, like at least whatever, or like it works, everything happens for a reason. Like that doesn't actually help. And I've talked to a couple of friends where I'm like, I feel like it's just something unless you go through it firsthand and you're like, whoa, okay, like it completely changes the way then you approach other people. So often we have to learn how to approach people. We have to learn how to do this. We have to learn how to hold people's pain. And a lot of it has to do with working through our own discomfort and noticing these things and being like, okay, what's coming up for me? And we need to learn how to deal with that without
Yeah.
projecting anything on anybody
Yes.
else.
Yes. One of the things people will tend to say, and if anybody's ever said this to me, don't feel bad because we just tend to do this. Is it okay to talk about him? Is it okay to talk? And I understand that's coming from a place of sensitivity, but just let me just clear the decks here and assure you, no one until the day I die will ever like surprise me with the fact that I've lost Chandler. Like if you ask me about Chandler, I won't go, Jude, I forgot that I lost him. That's never going to happen. So there is no day or time or place that I would not 100% welcome anyone saying to me, tell me about Chandler. How did you lose Chandler? Tell me about who he was. I will welcome that 100% until the day I die. Now, I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for people, 100% of people who've lost someone, which is all of humanity, is going to or has lost someone. So I won't speak for everyone, but pretty much everybody I know is in the same boat. You're not going to surprise us if you mention the loved one that we're missing. We remember every minute of every day. It's in our pores, it's in our DNA, it's in every cell of our being. I will always be Lisa who lost her son Chandler. That's my reality.
Yes. Well, and I'm curious, like, as you're even just sharing that, how would you describe, like, how grief affects the body, mind, and sense of identity in ways that we wouldn't expect?
Well, one of the first things was someone asked me, I don't remember. It was out at, I don't know if it was out at a grocery store. I don't remember what it was, but I'll strike up a conversation with a light pole, as my kids would say. So I was struck up a conversation with somebody, and they asked me how many kids I had. And that was the first time I thought, what do I say? In fact, I wrote about it in my book. I processed it that day. And I decided I'm going to tell people I'm a mother of four. I'm going to tell people I'm a mother of four. And I'm, depending on the day, I may say one of those four is waiting for me in heaven. I don't get to hug him on earth anymore. And not ever with the intent of making someone feel uncomfortable, but this is my reality.
Yes.
And so that identity piece, that's huge, whether you've lost a husband that you've been married to or a wife that you've been married to for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, and your identity is wrapped in that, and that's it's not a bad thing. That's your life. It's what you've been. It's something to allow yourself to feel and grapple with and come through it with this kind of a new remodeled way of looking at your identity because I am not just Chandler's mom, a bereaved mom. I will be that until the day I die. But that's not all I am. I'm also a mother to Charlie and Chance and Chase. I'm now Mimi. To my
Aw.
grandbabies. I am a friend. I'm a writer. I am foremost, the utmost way that I can describe myself will never change, has always been, I'm a beloved child of God. That's my identity at the core. No matter what happens to me in this life, that right there, that's everything. And then I get the amazing privilege of to experience all these other ways of being in the world as a mom, as a Mimi, as a friend, as a matcha lover, as a chocolate lover, as a dog enthusiast, as like all these different things about me. There are things about me, but identity, it's kind of it's a squishy thing in a lot of ways, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Exactly. And I think those are really helpful examples to hear because it can, I mean, when you go through something like this, it is so overwhelming, all encompassing. It can, I mean, earth shattering, really. So it can feel even like you don't realize it for, different people, obviously, but like that their identity then is shattered or not knowing like who they are outside of that role of whatever it was that they played and just seeing that there's more dimension. And I love how you even described it as squishy, like it's malleable, it's not just like a rigid mold, that there's a core to it, and then there's these other aspects of who we are that is easy to forget. Like it's just very easy to forget. And as I've had listened to some of your other podcast episodes that you were a guest on, what's been coming up for me is how you also shared in that year of grief, and what you wrote about was like stepping out to play, stepping out to try like different things that brought you joy, which would seem, I feel like there's probably people that even feel guilt for doing that. So I'm curious, as we're kind of coming to a close, but one of my last questions for you is, how do people move forward without feeling like they're leaving their loved ones or themselves behind?
It's a really good question because is a real thing. Like people, there is just this the guilt that says I cannot laugh, I can't
Mm,
feel joy, because that is betraying my loved one. That's like saying I'm not sad because I lost them. One of the sort of bedrocks for me was early on, it came to me this phrase, and I wrote about it because I write about everything. What would honor Chandler? And this friend made me a ring, had a ring made that said UWHC, what would honor Chandler? And I remember
mm,
digging my hands into the sand at the beach that Chandler loved and seeing that ring peek through UHC, peek through the sand. And I thought, it honors Chandler that I'm willing to be open to the possibility of joy, even
mm,
after losing him. It honors him. It honors your loved one that you would be willing, and this is a long sentence, but just let it settle in. Willing, to be willing or become willing to be open to the idea of joy. You don't have
mm.
to be there today. You don't have to say, you know what? Yes, I'm going to step out today and I'm going to go to goat yoga like Lisa did and find joy. And it looks different for everybody. Joy, you find joy in the thing that you find joy in. But just today, wherever you're at, if you're hurting so bad, it literally aches for you today. I'm not asking you to do some crazy, stupid thing that's not even feasible. I'm just saying, let this little phrase stick with you. I'm willing to become willing to be open to the idea of joy.
That's a great place to start, even with that, just to open your heart, your mind, just to crack open a little bit. And it's making me think of what you said even at the very beginning, that one of the things you've learned is it's this duality of it. We can experience both grief and joy, which I mean, it's very hard to cognitively like think of like how that's possible. But it's breaking out of all or nothing. It's not like even outside of something that is like a huge loss, like in general, if you step out of that, but just like where we can think like, oh, every area of my life has to go well in order to experience joy, when that's just not true. And it's not even possible. Like there's going to be some area of our life, or maybe we experience that for like 1 second, but like beyond that, there's something. So I think that's like a huge shift, even mentally, of shifting that perspective of being like, it can be both. I can honor, I can let myself say this, I feel grieved, and go through that, letting ourselves cry and feel this and share and write and process, and say there is some miraculous way of experiencing joy in the midst of grief.
Mhm.
which it just doesn't seem like it can be. But I think that's the surprising possibility that can happen. And so I appreciate you sharing even just those practical like ways of just starting to open our hearts before we even feel like we can take the next step towards some adventure, some joy, or goat yoga, which I love that example too. So yeah, Lisa, where can listeners connect with you and learn more?
Oh, I'm pretty easy to get hold of. I write about stuff, about life, about grief, about all kinds of things on Substack. Of course, my website, I'm right, lisaespinoza.com. That's an easy one. I'm on Instagram, lisa.espinoza. I'm on Facebook. I'm pretty easy to find, and I love to talk to people, so I'll message you back. I would love to mention one thing that I created that's just free. It's just a free
Yes.
resource. If you are listening to this and you have lost a child, or you know someone who's lost a child, I don't care how old that child is. If you've lost a child, it's your child. It's called A Gentle Guide for Getting Through the Day When You're Grieving the Loss of Your Child. And you can find it on my
Mm,
website. It's easy to find. Or just if you can't find it, message me somehow and I'll help you find it. But it's free. You can just download it. And I just created it remembering what helped me or would have helped me early on, and just kind of takes you just some little steps, a few breaths at a time to help you just kind of get through the day.
mm.
I would be honored to be able to come alongside you in that way.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I'm glad that you created that too. Just hearing a gentle guide for getting you through that. I'm like, yes, that is the key word, gentle. I mean, going through something like this, and it's so helpful to have something to guide us through when we're like, we've never, somebody's never experienced this or gone through it before, and somebody who has to be like, hey, this is what can help move you through the grief. So and thank you for sharing. And thank you so much for being willing to share your story. Just so honestly, I know that whoever is listening that has been through something or going through something similar will feel so seen by you. And just again, being able to have you name these things for them, like, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one. So thank you for being here and sharing your story.
Thank you. Truly, it's a privilege to be able to talk about Chandler and to come alongside other people in their real life, real stuff.
Yes. Well, if this conversation encouraged you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it and remember that you're not alone. Thanks so much for listening, friend. I cannot wait to talk with you next time. Thanks for listening to Let's Get Real. If you've been feeling stretched thin, stuck in survival mode, or like you've lost yourself in motherhood, I made something just for you. It's called the Overwhelmed Mom's Guide, and it's totally free. Inside, I walk you through simple steps to help you reconnect with who you are, find a bit more breathing room in your day, and start to feel like you again. You can grab it now. Just click the link in the show notes. You don't have to keep doing this alone. Let's take the next step together.